A few weeks ago, I had talked in a sermon about the possibility and excitement on my behalf of having people from the congregation share their testimonies with us. Now, of course, it's something that's not particularly Lutheran. It comes from the Pentecostal tradition and some other evangelical traditions. But there's so much importance in the sharing of our faith stories with each other. And if you learn anything from me, I hope that you learn to tell your faith story and understand how your life is different with Jesus. To be able to answer the question, how is your life different now? That you know Jesus died for you and rose again, that you know that Easter happened for you. How is your life different? Preaching the Good Shepherd texts are hard. And today, of course, if you haven't noticed yet, along with being the fourth Sunday after Easter, is also what we call Good Shepherd Sunday, where we hear the 23rd Psalm and we hear this morning's gospel. But like I said, preaching this text is hard, and as I talked to other preachers this week, they shared the same sentiment. And it's because these texts are so well known and so loved by so many people. Often when I meet with a family or talk to them on the phone after a loved one has died, I'll say to them, did they have any texts that they loved? What was their favorite Bible verse? Did they have any hymns that they liked? And a lot of times people will say, I don't know. Because the service wasn't pre-planned, so they haven't really thought about it. And a lot of times people's faith lives are sort of private, even to their families, so they won't talk about their favorite texts and things like that. So often, people will just revert to the 23rd Psalm and say, well, I guess they like the 23rd Psalm. When I go to hospitals or nursing homes, especially when I'm meeting with older people, I have the 23rd Psalm written in the King James Version, which is the only King James Version text that I will ever read, is of the 23rd Psalm. And that's because people know that one. It's the one that's ingrained in them, and if you begin it, even with people who have dementia, they start to recite it. They start to say it along with me. That and the Lord's Prayer. The text that particularly stuck with me this morning was, in fact, the Psalm, and one verse in particular. And I'm going to read you the Psalm again in a different translation, one that I have come to love. The Lord is my shepherd, I need nothing more. You give me rest in green meadows, setting me near calm waters where you revive my spirit. You guide me along sure paths. You are true to your name. Though I shall walk in death's dark valley, I fear no evil with you by my side, your shepherd's staff to comfort me. You spread a table before me as my foes look on. You soothe my head with oil. My cup is more than full. Goodness and love will tend me every day of my life. I will dwell in the house of the Lord forever. Though I walk through the darkest valley, I'd bet money that everyone here has experienced the darkest valley. I would bet that everyone here has had an experience of the dark night of the soul, a difficult time, a lonely time, a time when you wondered how you could possibly overcome the trouble. I have experienced that recently. In December, my grandmother came to live with me. Last week I preached about a different grandmother. This week, my grandmother that lives with me. Her name is Louise, but I call her Wee Wee. Long story. So, she came to live with me, and I thought, how hard could it be having my grandmother live with me? So she came to live with me, and honestly, she was living alone, so I thought for the most part she could be independent. She could move about our home. It's handicap accessible. She'll be fine. We'll be fine. She fell recently, and when she fell, we picked her back up, and she was fine, and then she fell again, and this time we weren't as lucky. She fell in the middle of the night. It was a Sunday night into Monday morning. Hannah went downstairs to pick her up and then took her to the bathroom, and she was able to walk there and walk back to the bed. So we thought, she seems fine, and we moved on. On Monday morning, she was calling for me, saying, I can't stand up, because now that the adrenaline has worn off, she feels the pain of her foot. She was taken by ambulance to the ER. They found that she had a small piece of bone break off on the top of her foot, which was making it very painful for her to stand on it. While she was at the hospital, she was still expecting that she would go to the hospital and then go home. They told her she had to go to rehab because she couldn't stand on it. This was the first time that she felt the dark night of the soul, but I felt like it was the right decision. She obviously couldn't be in our home if she couldn't stand. We can't carry her around our house, and we wanted her to become stronger so again she could be independent and live the best life possible. She went to rehab. She did great. The first day in rehab, she walked 10 feet. She was moving about. They said she only needed to wear the regular braces that she wears, nothing additional. Then I got a call while I was on vacation that said she had a rapid heart rate. So they said, we need to take her into the hospital because we don't have the facility here to deal with it. So I said, I think that's the best option. Of course, she was upset, but she wanted to get it figured out. She went to the hospital, found out she had a flutter, which is like AFib, just a little different. She'll need to have a procedure done. She went back to rehab, finished her rehab, and came home. She had a visiting nurse come to the house because Medicare covers it. She had to go to the doctor on Friday of this past week. So the doctor took blood, or the nurse took blood for the doctor. They called us that evening. I heard her on the phone. I didn't know what she was talking about. And she said, can you come in here? They're saying I have to go to the ER right away. Dark night of the soul. She finally got home after 3 weeks, and she was thinking, how could I possibly go back to the ER? I don't want to go. She said, they said I might die if I don't go, that I'll have a heart attack. She said, I would rather stay here and die than go to the ER. She experienced the dark night of the soul. So many unknowns. What if I go back and they won't let me come back home? What if I have to go to rehab again? What if I have to go somewhere else? What if I can't be here with you? Though I walk through the valley of the darkest evil. And Hannah and I were very worried. She's been having a lot of issues, and I swear I prayed more in those hours following her ambulance ride to the hospital. I called the hospital and I said, what's the status? Oh, she's still in triage, which basically means she's laying in a hallway. We'll go check on her. I said, that's great, because she was worried. Still no answer. A few hours later, I got a call, and like I said, we had been praying consistently. Hannah had gone to school and was still texting me, asking how she was doing, if I had any answers. And the doctor called me and said, she can leave. Her blood work is fine. She had to go back because her potassium was too high. They said, we tested her blood twice and it's normal. Lab error. Though I walk through the darkest valley, our prayers could have moved mountains. And I don't know if it was a coincidence or if God intervened on her behalf. But I like to think that it was the latter. There are moments in our lives where we know that God was present. Over the past few weeks, I've been hearing those stories from members of our council, from other members of our congregation who have been moved to tell their faith stories, to tell about how God has been working in their lives. Though I walk through the valley of the shadow of death, though I walk through the darkest valley, the next phrase tells us, though I walk through the darkest valley, God is with me. The shepherd is with me. The shepherd leads me. The shepherd prepares for me, even in the presence of my enemies, a banquet, food to eat. And though I walk through the darkest valley, I fear no evil. In those moments of life, we surely have fear. And I think that most often we are relieved that God's presence was with us after the fact. When we're going through the darkest valley, we don't always feel like God's presence is there. Maybe we are calling out to God in prayer saying, help me. Probably the most common prayer out there. Lord, help me. And after the fact, we recognize that God was there, that without God's presence with us, we would not have made it through. We would not have survived. And now, for the past few days, we've been joking about my grandmother's love for ambulance rides. And the valley doesn't seem so dark because we can be together. But I know from my experience walking with others that those moments in the hospital alone or at rehab or in nursing homes or those living alone, it's lonely and the valley is dark. But I know that God is with us, comforting us, leading us, preparing a place for us more beautiful than we could ever imagine, more comforting and relaxing than we've ever experienced. And I know, with all of my being, and we can't say it yet, but eventually we will be able to say, to look death in the face and say, where is your sting? Because I'm no longer afraid when I'm with my Lord. Amen.